explained the pathway that they could go through to a range of subjects depending on what their skills are. You're going through to year 12 in that case. I'll show you a little flow diagram of those shortly. This rationale here is you're trying to then say this whole thing that you've developed works well for the aims of music education, and it's represented by having access for students. It extends them. And when you read the document, it'll make more sense and hopefully reframe your ideas a bit more so that these are succinct, to the point. This is the one you want to have a bit more detail, and think through, well, what, I'll say year 9, a year 9 music class. What do I really want them to do? Well, I'd like them to have it. Play, they want to play. So you have to set the context, 4 lessons a week, 5 lessons a week. It's up to you how long those lessons are. Probably 45 minutes is a pretty average sort of thing for 5 lessons. Some schools only have 4 for a week, because it's year 9 and they've got to fit a whole lot of other things in. How much theory are you going to include? How are you going to include theory, if at all? Well, you expect you're going to do something. And how are you going to differentiate for those who are already advanced? They're complex things, and you've already been in that environment. You're going to have a 4th grade pianist or something or other sitting next to a guitarist who can only read tab, and someone else who shows the subject poorly and is just there. And you've got them on a tambourine or something or other, and yeah, you're doing well, the rhythm is happening. How are you going to embrace different types of methodologies, such as, and I need to frame this carefully, I assume you've done some Kadai stuff with Janelle, is that right?
Yeah.
And what about some ORF ensemble activities?
Not so much.
No.
Okay.
We did a little.
And you would have done some like musical futures sort of stuff? No? When I say musical futures, contemporary rock music stuff, where you do ensembles. Okay, right, fair enough. So you would need to decide how much of that stuff you embed, because I know only too well in our school, Tartees work quite well with the year 9 class. They're really open to it, using rhythms, saying ta, tika, tika, etc., with any of those patterns, so that they can have a representation of, instead of have a verbal representation of the rhythm. Another way, of course, is the 1 and 2 ends, etc., clapping the beats. Doesn't really matter. It's many ways, it's what you're proficient at. But many students are aware of that, and they like to know those variety of skills. You can do solfege if you want. Do, re, mi, etc. If that works for you, if you're good at it. And I know people can do that quite effectively. How much of those pedagogies do you want to embed in this? Because I've seen it at schools like Modbury, etc., that teachers can do it without any problem. It's just a matter of how convinced you are. If you want to make it a rock program, you can. If you want to make it a jazz program, well, it's a little bit more challenging, but you can make it funk. A lot of students really like the feel of that. You can make it more about challenging compositional tasks. Most of the New South Wales curriculum is about composing, playing and composing. Composing music is the big push. And their whole year 12 leads to year 12, that they're expected to write their own music. We do an arrangement, musicianship, but that's one of their core areas. So you might like to have composition as a big focus, contemporary songwriting, it could be minimalism, whatever. You'll find that you can take the kids with you if you give them a clear pathway. And so year 9, year 10, whatever syllabus you want, that's what you've got to outline. Your presentation is kind of an overview of this without a lot of detail, just to say, yeah, this is where it's heading, and it satisfies the Australian curriculum in these ways. And that succinct statement, when you have a little go at it here, you get a chance to rewrite it so that you can put it into nice verbal centred structures, and it's meant to be a formal document. Something that's your little bit of philosophy that says this is why my program is going to work and why it addresses these students here. And you've got to remember as well, you are dealing with a school community that's parents as well as other teachers. So you can't just have your own interest at heart here. It's about the students and their choices, and being flexible enough that everyone gets a bit of a bite at the cherry. We haven't really talked that much about the other performing arts subjects because that's not what we need to do. But generally, music is a performing arts subject, and we're always up against the same things. and the same kids cross over between those subject areas. Visual arts, quite a bit different actually. We don't tend to have as many music kids who do visual art, but they're there as well. How many people did visual art at Year 12? How many? 2, 3, 4?
You have to think about that eventually. Yeah, I have to think about it.
Some did, exactly. But often they're put up against each other. There's a restriction in choices. You're either doing music or you're doing that. IB's like that, you know. So you do one or the other. Okay, so that's the document. Criteria for assessment. Well, I've only really got my head around it because next week I'm going to present at least a template of it. We're going to go through a little bit of a rubric marking thing so that you know what grading roughly things will be. And you can have a bit of a say in, oh no, that's too harsh, it needs to be this or that. Whatever. I want people to be happy with their grades and settled. But in the end, it's going to, the grade, etc. Do your work, you're going to pass. How well that's how much work you want to put into it. Now, I'll just double check that this is still recording because it tends to cut itself out. That's doing well. So, what I'd like to share with you now, on the resources, your Australian curriculum, the thing that I gave out at the beginning of the year, I'll put it on here again, you can see the date there. There are some subtle changes, but nothing worth getting too worried about. The rationale, aims and learning in music, they're the things that I'm referring to in that assessment, and I'll just, you take one of these because I pressed print, and you may as well take a copy of it so that you understand what, that's just the document of the assessment overview. Our rationale for music is pretty much there, and our aims of what they want in a music education. So I'm not going to teach you how to read, because you can do that yourself, very simply. What the Australian curriculum does very importantly for us in the years 8, 9 and 10 is it can provide us with all the hints for content. So if I just bring this up here, and years 3 and 4. But you'll probably find when you look at what the year 5s and 6s are meant to do, you go, my 7 and 8s can't do that. What are they going on about? And so, of course, the spiral curriculum is a very important term to say you keep revisiting. So some of you have been using these within your lesson plans, and I've commented and said, look, that's really cool. Good, I like what you've got there. Oh, sorry, I haven't handed back your grades, have I?
Online.
Yeah, you've seen the grades, but you haven't seen the comments.
I didn't know there was a grade.
Hey, no grade. Oh, I've got comments. So, anyway, I'll finish this off first, and then I'll try to drop those down to that pigeonhole. Experimenting, and some people have been using those in their balance sheets, which is exactly what we want. This document also has a number of the points laid out further. Where are we here? Examples of the knowledge and skills. So in your assignment, you could say it links the Year 9 program. I'll use that as just an example. We look at the elements of music as per the Australian curriculum, and it's embedded in such and such a way. You've already had some experience at that. The achievement standards, well, however you like, because basically they're saying that your A, B, C, D, and E is going to be determined by what you do in your program, and that's fine with us. Content, the descriptors here, applying an oral understanding of key tonality when improvising. Really important you tie your program together. Now 9 and 10s are the same, so you know, whatever you prepare for the 9s, you want to have some sort of development with the experience and topic, but the actual descriptors are going to be identical. So up to you how you want to fathom that, but I'm expecting to see some of these numbers so that we know how it ties in. So that's the rationale. Now, I'll just close that one off. Curriculum course books. Well, I'll yeah, okay. So the first point at the top of that document is to say that when people are choosing subjects, they generally, each school will have their own little guide, curriculum guide. Now I've downloaded the 2013 Marrickville High School thing, just straight off the web. I'd suggest you do a bit of a, Google search thing and see what you can find as far as other schools. I've given you Modbury High and Marrickville, two different schools, both state ones. And I've just edited out a whole lot of the other stuff that's not music related. I hope I have. He says no. Absolutely not. Well, I thought I had. I lied.
No, you did.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, anyway. So at the very top here, we've got the special interest program, and it explains the basic concept of the extra immersion. Many students are there for various reasons, identified through scholarship programs, etc. And basically they just get a more intense experience. Gives a breakdown of some of the subject choices that those type of students in Music 1, Music 2, that's their selective stream and their elective stream, and then they also have a general program. So that's something for you to look through, and then a little bit later on is their actual music program, which is here. Now you can see the flow diagram there. You can come up with your own. I'll show you a different model as well. Stage 1 is something that you develop yourself, the school. Whatever you think is going to be your subjects for offering that you're going to offer in Year 12, or it could be a Year 11 student doing, but as a SACE 2, well, you need to give them realistic preparation. Wow, that was exciting. The ghost in the machine. Here you can see, you choose that subject, carries through, etc. So the options are there just to keep going, and yeah, you can choose any of those subjects. Is it that informative? Well, not really. It doesn't tell you that much other than you can choose it in each year level, and there you go. Fantastic. Or you can drop out of Music 2 and go into a different, slightly different stream in Year 10, which is good. If we go through there, then there's usually a descriptor of what happens in each year, what you actually learn. Now that's the important part that you're probably going to have to write for your overview. This sort of stuff here. So it's worthwhile having a look around to see what other schools are doing. Be informed. Don't just go from what these two schools are doing, because there's lots of different ways. You'll find similarities, of course. Music 1, you can see students develop an awareness of a significant part of music plays in our lives and the wider community, as well as an appreciation of understanding how composers and improvisers in Western other cultures. Units of study includes musicianship, creative skills, score writing, classroom ensemble, concert practice and choir. Now you might be able to do that in that DET context that I had there, but maybe you will. Up to you. And then the year 10 program, where is that going to be? Down here. Slightly different. You can see you've got the special focus music class, Music 2, and then the general stream class, Music Appreciation, or Stage 1 there. Is that the one there? Music 1. There it is. So that's the more, what should you say, less special class?
It's a general music.
Well, it's still elective. Did anyone go to Marrickville?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you?
It's called Integrated
Some subjects.
Studies.
Do you have? They had lessons in common, didn't they? Is that right? Music 1 and 2 had lessons in common.
Yeah, they had
ensembles
and ensemble together. Everything else was separate.
Yeah.
And they kind of perform for each other sometimes.
And school size can make those sorts of things possible, and they've got a special budget line that gives them that opportunity, which is good. And some schools are big enough where they're able to have 2 classes on at once on the timetable. Generally they don't, because they try to have more accessibility. So that's one line, one another. And the same teacher teaching it. So that's descriptive. That's a pretty good model for what we're looking for. And clearly, assessment's important. How are they going to get their grades and what's it mean?